Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. So many of us are involved in Zoom videos or having to do some type of presentation at work, and we're challenged by it. They say that one of the top fears that we have in life, or one of the top three, is public speaking. How do we get past that? Because it's inevitable at some point, you're probably going to have to do some type of presentation, even if it's on a Zoom. Hear it from friends all the time. And one would think, all right, it's on a Zoom, it's going to be a little bit easier. No, sometimes for them, that's just as hard. She helps people with that and so much more: personal and network growth, communication, presentation skills, coaching to move your life forward. She works with entrepreneurs, business leaders, just individuals upping their game and their brand. So we're going to dig into this today. Debra Rothschild joins us here on the program. Welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you back here. And I'm gratified that we're digging into this because I hear it a lot and I can relate to it. Even though I do broadcasting, there was a time, and it's not as far back as one would think, where I was a little uneasy in addressing a group of people, even on a Zoom. You know, you want to project your best in all of those situations. Where do we start with that? Let's do a hypothetical. Somebody's got a presentation coming up. Maybe it's a Zoom, 15 people going to be in the room. Maybe they have to show PowerPoints on that Zoom, or let's say it's something in person. I'm nervous. How do I get past that?
I think people need to remember that they present to people all day long. If you're a mom or a dad, you've got a half a dozen children, you're presenting something. And, you have, your audience. And so that's your family, your children, your neighbors. And I think when it steps into a more professional level, or you have a sales pitch, or you've been asked to speak, I think, all of a sudden then people begin to, entertain, I can't do it. I'm in fear. They got more apprehensiveness going about it, when all they're doing is bringing who they are to the table in an authentic lifestyle, and they're speaking from their hearts. And most people, 99.9% of them, they're all prepared anyway. They know that they're a master in their industry. Now it's a matter of getting past themselves and to begin to visit with people. Excuse me.
This is why you're a master at what you do, Debra, because in that short explanation, in my opinion, you've nailed it all. And we can always speak about things we know. What's the number one thing we know? Ourselves. We can always talk about that. Top of your head, you know it better than anybody else. And same thing when it comes to our industry. We know it inside and out. But a lot of times stuff gets in the way. Interesting analogy that you made there, in that we're presenting all the time. So when you are doing a presentation, more times than not, what are you trying to do? You're trying to influence the other person to either understand or take action on whatever you're presenting. Maybe you're trying to sell something. Maybe you're trying to sell the team on your idea. Well, I never thought of it that way. When you're at home, you're doing the same thing. Like if you talk to your kids, and even if it's dinner, you're presenting. All right, guys, we're going to do pizza tonight. We haven't had pizza in a while. Everybody likes pizza. Let's get the one with the soft crust, whatever it might be. You're doing the same kind of thing. You're influencing and presenting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what happens to them is that they stand in front of an audience, or they get on a Zoom meeting. Right away, they're going to think, what if I do something wrong? Or what are they going to think of me? Or what if, and what if? And by the way, all those what ifs don't matter. And they've already thought about you. So why don't you just get in, smile, and dig in, and, do what you're called to do.
100%. And be real. Like you said before, if it comes from the heart, I'm a firm believer in energy, and people will feel your energy. If you're uncomfortable, you have angst, you have anxiety, they're going to feel that. And that's okay, because that's real. But your genuineness, if you can project it, and yeah, stuff's going to happen. The camera's going to go down. You're going to drop a paper. So make fun of it. Make light of it. Let me just get that. I'll be right back. It's because you're being real. Or I've heard so many times people say, well, look, let me get my cat, a dog, put him in the room. It's fine. You know what? We're so used to that now, thanks to COVID. Even major network anchors were broadcasting from home and their cat would be walking on their laptop. Guess what? Makes you real. Makes you real. That's what you want.
Many years ago, I was a keynote speaker for the cattlemen's organization, and I was to address all of the wives. And this was very early on in my speaking career. Although I was pretty fearless, always something was going to go wrong. And being young at that, I think at times things took me by surprise and kind of T-boned me. So I'm standing on stage and I'm pretty flamboyant with my arms. And what happens is one of my fingernails flew far enough into the audience and hit some woman square in the nose. And, I made a joke out of it. I guess no one should buy that nail glue anymore. And I just kept rolling. But I was a wreck, right? I mean, I was a wreck. I just, nailed somebody, no pun intended. And, but everybody enjoyed my humor, but I was sweating behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, but I'm taking that as a wow, that was fantastic. That you know what, your recovery was great, and you can even roll with that. Even you recovered great, but you can even roll more and saying, do you need workman's comp? Are you going to be okay? It's a nail. It's like, can I get that back after the show? Whatever. It's fun. It makes you real. How about the cues that you get from people? The nonverbal cues. You want to read the audience, and I'm a big believer in that. You need to know your audience before you present, no matter what it is, your demographic. But reading them sometimes can be a challenge. Any tips for that?
Especially new people, they don't know how to read people. And sometimes their listening skills aren't where mine are or yours are, because, we listen for a living. And they have to know their audience. And I always tell everybody, do a little bit of homework on everybody. As much time as you're spending on preparing your intel that you're going to deliver to them, find out who's going to be listening to you. And then whatever you do, whatever you don't do, you don't get on there with a frown and you don't look like, you're fronting. Have your notes, but put a big smile on your face and watch people. And let's see if your smile is not going to melt somebody. And there's always somebody on a Zoom, always multiple people in the audience that had a bad day. And no matter what you say, no matter how big you smile, they're going to look at you like you're green. And you look at them and you smile all the bigger, and you just deliver your information to people, because people are there to hear what you have to say.
A smile goes a long way, and we forget about that. And it even makes it easier to speak. If you're worried about tripping up words, which is fine, by the way, it's normal. You throw an ah in there, it's going to happen. No problem. Don't fixate on it, right? But enunciating when you're smiling, and also people picking up on that vibration. Here we go back to energy. I'll tell you, in radio, we used to put a sign up in front of the microphone and said one word: smile.
Yeah.
You put that on a card in front of you. Don't forget to smile. It does make such a big difference, right?
I tell my clients that do a lot of cold calling, via the telephone. You put up a Post-it note and you're smiling. They can't see you, but they can hear you, and they can pick up that energy and that attitude. And you need to be upbeat, because you know what? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they've had 5 people prior to you call them, trying to pitch something, and they're all, downy downers, and you're going to come along all happy, and you're going to make a connection.
Yeah. I get calls like that all the time, and I want to at least give them the time, even though I really don't have it. But a lot of times they start with the formal, hello, is this Steve? Yes. I went, no, yeah, it's okay. Hey, man, how's it going? I got something I want to tell you about. Just be real. I hosted as master of ceremonies for the Boy Scouts in our county last week. And I'm bringing this up because I believe we shouldn't try to be funny. If something works, then run with it. Little boy comes up, I guess about 7 or 8 years old. He's a firecracker. This kid, unbelievable. He would go out and try and recruit 95-year-old men to be in the Boy Scouts. Like he's the goodwill ambassador. And he just joined not too long ago. He comes up, he starts talking on the microphone. He's taking control of the room. I just said, I went like this. I walked away. Let him do his thing. When he was done, I come back and I said, and his name is Kieran. I said, everybody, Kieran in for president 2064. What do you think? And everybody, it's just a fun moment. But I let others drive. And then I look at that and I look with ways that I can work with it. You don't have to be a comedian. You don't have to be funny. Maybe just look for opportunity, like you did with your nail coming off and hitting the lady in the nose.
When you are hosting a Zoom and you've invited, several dozen people, I have taught my clients, you need to look for the shrinking violet on the screen. You need to look for that individual that maybe doesn't have the biggest smile or looks really, really afraid to be there because she's never done that. Maybe her makeup isn't right. Maybe, she's got 3 kids screaming, and draw at the very best, make sure that you call everybody by their name and welcome them and make people feel good, because the better they feel about it participating, they're gonna return to your next Zoom. But if anybody feels isolated, they're unwelcome, they're being ostracized for something, you've lost them.
Yeah. That being said, what are some things that we should remember? Where I'm going with this is Debra's secret weapon tips. Like, I'm going to throw out here to start this. Should you ask for questions? You get done doing a presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
I think it depends on the presenter, how well prepared they are. Many years ago, I was a keynote speaker down at Southern Illinois University, and I going back to the beginning of my career, and I asked for questions. And, who do I meet is Heather the heckler. I mean, we couldn't get her hand to stay at her side. And, after interrupting me 3 or 4 times, I said, Heather, let's just continue on. I'll talk to you after, my presentation. And so I did meet with her, and I said, are you having a bad day? I said, because, I felt like you were, picking on me and I was on the stage. She said, well, my mother-in-law doesn't like me. And I said, I am so sorry. So, I was like the first person that would listen to her after her mother-in-law got a hold of her. And I'm saying that is that people have issues. People combat things all the time, right? And in doing so, we need to just be authentic. And if somebody has a question, I open everything up always for questions, because I can roll with everybody. Not everybody can. So new clients coming aboard, they have a sales force. What I ask them to do is have your group text you questions. I'll go through them with you and we'll answer them. And the ones that I think will put you on the spot are not the healthiest for your organization, we can address at some other point in time.
It goes back to what you said before. You know your stuff. If you're confident in what you're presenting, but also your line of work or the subject, you can entertain those questions. When I asked the question about the questions before, if nobody raises their hand with any questions, is that a bad sign? And how do you handle it? What do you say at that point? All right.
I think it's a horrible sign, because either one, they're too afraid. That first person coming aboard to ask the question is going to be the icebreaker.
Yeah.
And also, when a person asks the question, it leaves them very vulnerable in front of a group, and it's going to let everybody know what they don't know. And so, there is no dumb question ever. And people can ask questions all the time. And people are going to judge them one way or the other. But if you don't ask the question, you don't get the answer. And if you don't have the answer, you're still stuck and you can't move on.
I'm getting thoughts in my mind here about dealing with that. Plan B. So sad to say, if you don't get any questions, there's a probable good chance that you didn't engage the audience and make them feel comfortable if you didn't get questions. That being said, if you ask for questions and nobody says anything, what about this idea? All right, no, okay. You know what? I'm going to go to often asked questions because I'm sure you guys are thinking about it and you already have questions prepared. And that's your plan B. So at least you don't look like you're standing out there naked.
Well,
And crickets.
anything we hate is dead air time, right? I mean,
Sure.
oh my God. So, to keep everything rolling. So just, I teach my leaders that give some questions in the bag just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case. And that way you can answer because, one great thing about asking someone to present a question is that there's 12 people on the line. Somebody finally has the oomph, to be humble to ask that question. Chances are the other 10 on the Zoom, they need
Sure.
that answer as well.
Yep.
And then everybody's empowered.
Well, you do have a good safety net when it comes to the Zoom. Nobody knows that you didn't get a chat. You can throw a question in the chat. So you can even open it up. We're going to do questions later. If you want, you can send them to me in the chat. So you can just say, all right, we've got somebody in the Zoom today is asking blah, 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 blah. And whether they did or not, you can use that maybe as the icebreaker, the door opener to other people asking questions, and also have a reply instead of hearing the crickets, and the dead air at that time.
Well, I mean, yeah, crickets doesn't work, and people just need practice at it. You just have to practice. Leaders need to participate on Zooms where they're listeners, and new people need to plug in. And if somebody needs extra work, that's where I get my client to get them on the phone. And lots of times people just have a lot of made up fear. It's real to them. And to me and you, it's like, what? You're afraid of that? But okay, you know what? I'm going to meet you where you are because you're important. And we're going to work through that. And lots of times, all those people that need just an extra touch become chatty Cathys.
Preparation. In my opinion, it's everything. Your thoughts?
It's the Boy Scouts. Be prepared, people. Yesterday, the phone was blowing up over here because I work with a couple importers. They had the big debacle at the Baltimore Bridge. How are we going to get our goods? And I said, everybody needs multiple buyers, multiple shippers, multiple everything. And what can we do starting, 5 hours after we learned of this? Let's go to work and see what we can do so we can derail some problems for you.
Now
so it's being prepared. And lots of times people, I'll say this and I'll turn it back over to you. People get so wrapped up in their problems, the big fight today, they fail to look ahead. What can they prevent to happen next week?
You've done keynote addresses. You've spoken before Congress. You've presented in front of network marketing companies, corporations, seminars, radio, TV, and all of that. How in the beginning did you get past the butterflies, the anxiety, the sweaty palms? Any tips there? Yeah, and we'll go. Here's a Zoom and in person, an audience. Things. Is there anything that you would suggest? Even I'm looking at an audience. I'm going to look straight through at that dot on the wall. Anything like that can help somebody at least get over that initial fear. And then once you do, the next one's easier, the next one's easier, the next one's easier.
I think what saved me is that I was told by my mentors that, Debra, you are a master problem solver. And I want you to get past yourself. I want you to pretend you're visiting with some girlfriends. They have some major needs in their life, and you're going to share your knowledge and your wisdom, and you're going to throw them a life raft. And so I got on stage. Of course, the first few minutes, you're a little sweaty palms. And then I would not stare at one person in the audience because I'm a trained platform speaker, but I would see their smiles. I would see them hand clap. I would nod to them. And to me, it was like one big coffee clutch. We were just sitting down, even though I was standing up and I had a microphone, and I was witnessing to these people, giving them the gold nuggets that I believe on that day they could walk out and they can make great changes in their life. And for me, that worked. And so I teach my clients, and clients have speaking gigs and they have presentations all over. And, I make them practice with me. because I have a critical ear, and I listen to them, and they have to go practice if they have to talk to the refrigerator, and they come back and we go over it again until I know they're comfortable with their intel, and they're just going to have to get it in their head. They're bringing great news to the table, and they're doing everyone a favor. And if they didn't show up that day, and if they didn't perform, it would definitely be a misservice to the entire audience.
What I'm detecting from you, Debra, is believe not only in yourself, but what you have to offer. I have something here that I believe people need to hear because it's going to help them and change their life. Yeah, a lot of us don't, because we get fixated in the, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I lose my train of thought? How about speaking in general? Tips on that. What can you share?
I with people that want to break into public speaking, or just going into doing presentations at larger companies, I tell them to practice on their neighbors and their family.
Okay.
Invite a room full of people over, people people you don't know, and ask them if they would be so kind to lend an hour of their time. After it's over with, give them some cookies and milk, or a cocktail and an appetizer, but start standing up and talking to people. And as you're talking to people, I want you to reference the way they look at you. And I want you to just become very familiar and more comfortable with talking to people, not just, in a grocery store line, but, get a great room full of people over, and tell everyone to have a heart and be nice. Don't throw tomatoes or eggs at you. Allow you to do what you do best, and start working the ice edges off. And I know everybody's nervous going in the first one, but after they do that and they're successful, it's like, wow, I can do this again. That's not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Even this has worked for me. Even the speaking portion of it, speak slowly. In your mind, you're thinking, it sounds like this. I'm speaking like this, and people are hearing it, but it really isn't. It really isn't. And a lot of times when we get nervous, we start speaking really fast because we want to get it out and on to the next thing so we can stop that sentence, and just take control of it. Enjoy the moments. So many of us get wrapped up in the other stuff, and that I think you'll agree. What a sweet spot when you feel that, oh, I've got them. They're listening and they're engaging. This is actually really good. I don't think there's a better feeling in the world.
No, I agree with you. And I'm sure educators every day feel that way, because they're standing in front of youth. They're standing in front of kids that are, working on their master's degree, and they're making a difference in this world. And if they don't communicate effectively and engage them, the adult is going to walk away, and they didn't get what they came there for.
Yeah, that's a great point. We don't give teachers a lot of credit for what they do, but every single day in every classroom, they're presenting to their class. I never thought of it that way. I mean, that's, okay, so it's the same people every day, but you've got new stuff you're presenting, and that can sometimes be a challenge. This is just a piece of what you work with when you work with somebody. Presentation, communication, certainly everything else in terms of moving somebody's professional life forward. Your website is your name, DebraRothschild.com, correct?
That's me.
Kudos, by the way, for locking down a URL with your name. It's not easy to do many times. And, I got to believe there's other Debra Rothschilds out there, but there's nobody like you. And by the way, Debra, DebraRothschild.com. Do you offer free consultation if somebody just has questions and wants to just kind of feel things out?
Well, absolutely. I love meeting new people and finding out where they are and what kind of hiccups they've had, and to see if we're a fit that I can take them to the next level.
Awesome. Great talking with you today. Love your transparency on everything, including the nail story, which I'm not going to forget. And I appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We are coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.